Rutherford will be speaking about where do you fit? Opportunities in renewable energy and sustainable investments. Rutherford is with the law firm Davis, Pickren, Seydel, and Sneed. Has participated in many impressive things, but of note, he's currently working with Atlanta city officials and private sector leaders to spearhead the Atlanta Better Buildings Challenge, a nation-leading public-private revitalization initiative that aims to improve energy and water performance at a minimum of 20% by 2020 across participating buildings in Atlanta, with over 90 million square feet of public and private building space already committed. Rutherford? Yeah. Thank you.
Let's see. Okay. So thank you, Sally. Thank you, Chip, for inviting us, and my whole family here. We're sort of like the Van Tropps. We all spoke. You heard my son earlier. John R. Seydel talked with the millennials, and my wife, Laura, tell you about the many things that she does to enhance our lives and the lives of our communities around us, working with Captain Planet and others. And that's just an example of kind of, you'll hear from Mike Phillips later, I see him over there, and you'll see what we call affectionately Team Turner. And many of my brother and sister-in-laws and other family members are also doing great work in the communities that they live in, and we all live in different communities. So it's wonderful. We get together once or twice a year and we compare notes so we can kind of see what's going on around the United States. And since this is the American Renewable Energy Conference and we're going to talk about sustainability, Chip and I talked about, why don't you just give some examples of some of the things that y'all have done and maybe inspire some, maybe some other ideas. I've already gotten inspired, and as a lifelong learner, I've found other things to enhance the things we're working on here, and also to share that wisdom of what we've learned over the couple of decades, and to see if some other ideas kick off from that. So this is designed to have y'all at the end ask a few questions and to say, you know, we have small and large projects and everybody can get involved. It's obviously getting a lot easier. We've heard from Tony yesterday that we're all going to drive EVs by 2030 and we're going to have 100% renewables, and God bless him, I hope he's right. But in the interim, we got to figure out where we fit into that and how we're going to help his predictions come true. I think it is inevitable that we're heading towards a sustainable, more sustainable future, because we just got back from Greenland and Iceland, and you'll hear that presentation later from Jason, but unfortunately, a lot of our coastal friends, and if you live on the coast, I apologize to you for whatever carbon I've put into the atmosphere, but I would advise putting your house for sale soon and moving inland just a bit. And you can make that own conclusion after you hear Jason speak. But so let me use this little clicker I've got, and hopefully it works. There we go, okay. So in Atlanta, right outside the headquarters of Turner Enterprises, I got Ted to reluctantly buy a parking lot. He told me there hadn't been anything older business than the parking lot business that he did not want to be in. And but this also, you can see over the top of the screen that the park that we call Centennial Park, named after the Olympics, was right there. And his penthouse is about where this shot was taken. Actually, it's a little bit higher. And so it kept our view shed for him and for all the guests and the functions, and that's important. View shed's a little different out here. I hear some laughing about the Rockies, but this is an important view shed because all the concerts and all the activities, and if you could pan back a little bit, you would see an amazing park that comes out. So he kept looking down at that parking lot and wondered, you know, that's not quite the view shed I'm used to in Montana or New Mexico or whatever. What can we do about it? So we said, well, let's utilize existing space and let's put up some nice places for our cars. In the South get very hot in July and August, you can imagine, in most of the other year. So we shade the cars. We also energize those cars Tony was talking about. That parking lot is increasingly getting full of EVs. I know I've had one for a couple years, and yes, I get free solar energy. I run my car on solar power, and it's a lot of fun. We all will. Remember what Tony said, we all will. And so, so really, you can look at that as a filling station, I guess, and a modern-day filling station. But it also provides a lot of, it cools down the local environment. Over here, you can see we painted the parking lots white to create that albedo effect, and it really works. Our parking lots without those solar panels are actually 15 degrees cooler. And that is an amazing small, it also, by putting that coating on there, it makes the concrete and asphalt last longer. So a lot of little things. We've kept the big trees over here. I've learned from this. I think I'm going to go back and talk about some fruit trees we should plant. But those are just little things that I didn't want to get bogged down in parking lot solar, but it is kind of exciting when you think about all the possibilities. So that's sort of, I call that sort of in the small side of what we're doing. This is the large side of what we're doing. We partnered with Southern Company. Now, when I say Southern Company, I think Ted's spoken about them before, and somebody said, Southern Company, that's that big coal-burning power monopoly that, you know, governs Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and northern Florida. But we tried and we funded many groups that you know, would go after them, and it turned out that it would be better to partner with them. Those are all the projects that we've got that we've partnered in, and this is the top one right there, and this is on Ted's ranch in New Mexico. This ranch happens to be close to 600,000 acres. Mike wants to talk to you about wolves in New Mexico, and obviously he's done a great job in Yellowstone. He'll tell you about that later. But what we're trying to do, and what Mike's done down here, is we're trying to get our ecology and our economics squared away. This helps with the economics, and I think Mike could even maybe comment later about the ecology. It hasn't had a very big effect on the local ecology, and it's provided a lesson for us in how we can do big solar in a partnership with Southern, and it's provided, we've gotten almost 300 megawatts of solar, and we've, I think, helped that company, Southern, get off of coal and head towards a more renewable future for themselves, and probably just in time, again, if the predictions we heard earlier are correct, which I hope and pray they are. The Atlanta Better Buildings Challenge. So a quick story, I gave this last year, so I don't want to be too redundant, but in Atlanta, we had taken our own part of Atlanta Hawks, and we had taken our arena and we had made it, I'd gotten into a little competition with my fellow arena owners and said, we're going to be the greenest arena. And there was already a couple working on it, Miami notably and some others. And so we are all competitors being in the sports business, and I think the Sports Council is going to speak later today also. So I want to just throw in that with that, we made ours the first LEED certified NBA NHL arena. We beat Miami by a day. We're real thrilled. We beat them in the playoffs, even better. And the point was, I said, you know, that felt great as I sat there in the front row with the mayor at the playoffs, beating Miami, regaling how, you know, smug and smart and how great we felt. And mainly our energy costs went way down. Our water costs went down because we also did water. And I started talking to the energy department, and we started talking about this competition and how everybody got excited about it. And we came up with this idea of the Better Buildings Challenge. We went to the Clinton Global Initiative. We announced, the mayor announced that Atlanta, I think along with other cities like Chicago, I think that's where it was, would join this. I think there's hundreds of cities involved in this now. I'm proud to say that Atlanta is led as the most number of square feet that have been signed up by private companies. That's really important. Some city properties, yes, and in Washington, D.C., they've got lots of federal buildings that are signed up in this. But most of Atlanta's projects are nestled in private building owners. You can have a church, so you can be, you know, a school. You could have big buildings and small buildings, but we've got over 100 million square feet signed up. We've already achieved, with 100 million square feet, our 20% goal of water efficiency. In a town, in a place that gets 60 inches of rain, that's pretty good. And then we've our 11.3% on energy. Energy takes a little longer, but we've created 5,000 jobs in the process, and that was really important to our local economy as we went through a devastating recession. Atlanta has a really real estate-based economy, and so we put a lot of plumbers and electricians back to work, and we continue to do that as we grow the program. So I could go into more detail on that, but I think that jobs, making a better indoor work environment, play environment, I told you about the arena, and also spiritual, wherever you go to your synagogue or church, those places also, you want them to be healthy indoor air, better lighting. Students, a lot of statistics about how much better students do and people perform better in these types of buildings. And most importantly, everybody saves money and creates jobs. What better could do that? So we want all other cities that y'all represent to put a good challenge against Atlanta and to try to get in your local community. I can talk to you about how you do that. And our city council and our mayor has led this effort, and it's been fantastic. Next. So we had to put in place some innovative financial solutions. Earlier it was said the best thing to do is zero money down, because I got so many people, my friends that own buildings, they said, well, we'd love to do it, Rutherford, we just don't have the money, at our church or at a big building even. I said, you don't have the money? Okay, well, we got to come up with something. So we got the energy services companies together, and I got them all in a room like this during the recession. I said, we're going to create opportunities for you, but you guys are going to have to give a little bit. So they did free energy audits, they've volunteered their services, and it's been a lot of business, as I said, for them, as we've created a lot of jobs. I'm going a little faster because I'm going to run out of time, but I wanted to say that in 31 states, PACE financing is in place. In Atlanta, we're on the verge of a $500 million bond being issued for us to go out with the mayor's help and city council and having $500 million for building owners to go put that onto their taxes and to use that money. And the reason why that's important, the largest REIT in the United States came to me and they wanted to do their malls in Atlanta. And they said, well, we got the money, but we need to pass this along to the tenants who are going to enjoy the utility reduction. And so with that, I said, okay, what can we do? The PACE program allows you to attach and enhance your taxes to pay for this. So if you have a $100 million building, you can add $10 million to your taxes, and that will get passed. Everybody has triple net leases in those malls. So they pay for increased taxes, they pay for increased utilities, and they pay for other common area maintenance and things like that. So this allowed that to go down to the people that were actually going to be able to use it without changing the financial structure or the leases or anything else. So the PACE program has been invaluable in 31 different states, and we're going to be proud to have that in Atlanta in the next few months, and it'll really get our program energized, as many of the buildings are waiting to sign up for this program, the Better Buildings Challenge, once they get the financing in place. The green banks were referenced earlier, so I won't go into that, but these are also other mechanisms in New York and Connecticut, and there's more. These guys talked about financial incentives. A lot of people are getting into the game, and it's big money, and it's big opportunity. So I don't think you have to put any money down to make these improvements, is my point. You can go ahead and start planning and making them in your building, in your home, in your church, and I'll talk about a home a little bit later. Okay, let's talk about charities. So we had a school come to Laura and I and say, you go around our community talking about solar. We want to put solar in our school. We've done all the work. Can you help us? So this is the school. This is all the solar projects at the school. It's Agnes Scott, a very reputable women's college in Atlanta. And they have some parking lot solar you can see over there. And they also put it on top of about every building that they could put it on. And they've come up with a great plan. But they didn't have the money to do this. So what we did was we came up with an idea that we could, as investors, we started something called Seydel Solar, and we said we will use the tax credits as an investor. So you pay us back the money you would have paid to Georgia Power, and then after a few years of getting that money back, we'll be able to use the tax credits. We'll make a donation, which will further enhance our investment, and we'll be able to put this into a revolver and go and do other projects with you. So this is a pretty cool way for you, the investor, locally, to put some money in, and you could have done any one of these projects. They went from $10,000 to $100,000 in projects, and then you could have done this yourself, taken the tax credits, then make the donation in a few years after you've gotten some of your money back, and you can get about a 10% return or whatever you want to get, whatever you negotiate. This college is no worse off paying me for 10 years than they would have paid Georgia Power. But the last 10 years of I'm just using 10 years, it may be 7. The last 10 years, they would get all their solar in the reduction in the energy, and then they'd have a frame that they can put new solar panels on in the future. So it's fun. You can do all this with energy efficiency too. So I wanted to give you that. Grants to Green. So South Face, which is our RMI of the South, been around for 40 years, helped us with all these projects, the arena and everything else. They came up with an idea that we would get the foundation community and individuals to donate money. We created a fund of $3.4 million. We've gone out to 147 charities that have applied for that money, and we've done about $50,000 for each one of these charities of retrofits. Again, creating jobs, helping the charities. Imagine 147 charities saving this year over $1 million. That's more money for their missions. The development officer doesn't have to raise that money. And as this grows and as those accumulate, it's going to be millions and millions of dollars. It's been a very successful program. It's a terrific way for foundations and community foundations to get leverage. Okay, I got 2 minutes, so I'll talk about quickly Ted's Montana Grill. At several of our restaurants, I insisted, and Ted was wildly enthusiastic about making them LEED certified. We put rooftop solar on top of them. The building that was right next to the parking lot I showed you in the very beginning is totally run off. It's an 8-story building and it's penthouse on top. Green power, including the restaurant in it. We do waste reduction. Laura's been very good about making sure that we don't have plastic straws, we have paper straws, because petroleum straws are not a good way to go. And we have all kinds of recycled building content. We've we talked about food waste and recycling that. So 11% of our country's GDP is tied up in the restaurant and food business. That's a big part of jobs and opportunities and what we all do. Everybody in this room has been to restaurants weekly. So it's important that we take parts of our lives that we care about and we make them and enhance them and make them more sustainable. Okay, sustainable ranching. Where do we get all that bison? Well, we have ranches. And I go to the bison. I'm a member of two NBAs, the National Basketball Association and the National Bison Association. And we meet in Denver for the National Bison Association. And little ranchers that have a few bison all the way up to Ted, who's got 60-something thousand bison, all come together, and we talk about what can we do. Mike Phillips is in charge of all of our great things that we do with black-footed ferret, prairie dogs, and how they work with bison. I'll leave that to him if he's got time in his speech. But running bison that are better, more efficiently using the property and also provide us with better meat and protein for our restaurants that you've heard about really closes the loop for us from a financial standpoint. So that was something that we sort of came up with. That's our house. I think I've talked about that before. That's our rooftop, and we've got all the things that I stole from RMI and Amy's many tours that he's given me, and I just had one the other day, and I've got a couple more ideas. That's a green roof. My garage is under that area right there. And then finally, we talked about sustainable investing. So what can you do? You got to invest no matter how big or small you are. You've got to now not only divest, which my son can tell you about at the college campuses. He came to me, a year and a half ago, and he said, Dad, I can't be doing this if you and Mom have not gone through all your mutual funds and really figured out. It was hard. But there's some good news, and the divestment speech will tell you there's some software coming up that's being developed to show you how you can do it in your 401k or wherever you are, but also finding out ways to invest the money, not just to divest, to invest. And I heard earlier, make sure we all vote correctly, because it's going to be so important. And I'm talking about in Georgia, you don't have a choice. You have the choice between a Republican or a Republican. And there are good Republicans in Georgia. Some of the Georgia bills that we got passed recently for renewable energy were done in part with the Tea Party leaders, and they're flying all over the country, and it's called the Green Tea Party. They don't really like to be called that, but that's what it is, because the Greens teamed up with the Tea Party folks, and they created great policy. And the other Republicans were left sitting there going, what happened? And yeah, it's great news. So I see I've got no more time, but I want to just say, you all know where you fit in. I've given you some ideas. We're going to all probably drive some form of electric vehicles. If we heard BMW, I was surprised. I went and looked it up. That, they're really going to, by 2022, have electric motors on all their cars and eat sustainably. So that's one thing we can all do. I don't want to say don't eat red meat, because obviously we sell red meat, and I see one of our fellow ranchers out there. But we've got to make sure that we also eat holistically. We're healthier, we're better for it, and buy American, eat American, and produce solar from American skies. And also, this is not just because it's the American Renewable Energy Conference. I wanted to say that, but I also think the 2 billion people that Depinder was talking about earlier that aren't even tied to the grid. God bless them. Except for burning wood, they're probably doing a lot better than everybody else in this room, and we need to make sure that they have a sustainable future, and we get them a solar panel and get them a good working stove, and we help them get to a better place of prosperity. I've been through Bangladesh and through India and through many places that he was talking about earlier, and they have the greatest spirit, and they think everything is going great. They have no idea what a smartphone is, and they probably just have more anxiety and stress if they did, but they with a little help, we can get those other 2 billion people, and they can skip all the foolishness and get to a green economy right off the bat. So thank you all very much for the time, and I don't think I have any more time for questions, but if there's a burning one, can I take one or no? Okay, a burning question for Amy. Go ahead, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. Oh, you need a mic. I'll repeat your question.
Okay, just the first 2 projects you talked about, I was really excited by the solar parking lot and then the stadium. And I was just curious about the financials on both of those, because I've heard the stadium greenings aren't as great as they could be.
So there's actually 2 parking lots I showed you. One was at a college university, and I told you how that one worked, I think, in detail. The other one, it was a combination of, I went out and got some TARP money for Ted in the beginning, and we were able to get the tax credits, which Ted could utilize, and finance that process. But he got his payback in 3 years. Now, that was only for half the parking lot. He looked out there, he said, that's so beautiful, let's do the other half. I'll self-finance it. And he did, but just with the federal tax incentives. But if those incentives weren't there, I would have never been able to have talked to his financial people into this process. There was a big conversation about, what's going on here. This is going to be a moneymaker. But the first half was paid for in 3 years, and the other half was not. As far as the arena goes, we had a lot of dissension between the 5 or 6 owners that we had about whether this was going to be good or not. I volunteered to do it on my own, but I also said, when we start receiving the money back, whether it's 3 or 5, 7 years, I want y'all to write me a check for the savings that we're going to have. And that changed the conversation in a hurry. We're not writing a check. I said, well, then let's put up some money. So we put a few $100,000 in, and our payback there for water was within 1 year, and for electricity was pretty soon, 3 or 4 years also. I'll add one more thing. We got one sponsor out of a deal, a bank, who I was going around telling these stories, and they said, you know what, we want to be part of this platform. This is amazing. They gave us a $500,000 sponsorship for 3 years. So my point is, our payback, it was instantaneous. In fact, it was, and we've had other people join the platform for those reasons too. Not holistically, but even Coca-Cola really enjoyed that we have this platform and thought that was a selling point for their product and wanted to be associated with it. Thank you all very much. Sorry it was too fast.